Hi guys, this is Ben from Evolve Sport Nutrition, and today we're doing a brand new series, the Dietitian Mythbuster. And first on the chopping block, we have carbs make you fat. Stick in, strap in, let's get started. All right, so this myth has existed for the longest time, ever since the beginning of the 90s, and probably even earlier with the Atkins diet and now the keto fad. Basically, all these fad diets are versions of low carb diets, and the reason why they work is because to get weight loss through carbohydrate depletion is to lose water weight from your muscles, because each gram of carbohydrate, glycogen, in your muscles carries around 3 grams of water. So it's rapid weight loss, but you're not actually losing fat, you're losing water weight from the muscles, and you're feeling a little bit more tired than usual toward the 6th week. Okay, so before we go any further, we have to understand what a carbohydrate fully is, because not actually a lot of people know. There are 3 types of carbohydrates. There are sugars, starches, and fiber. Now, all starches are made up of sugars. In fact, sugars make up a lot of different things in our body, and relax, we will talk about sugars at another time, not now. But starches are basically sugars that are just joined together chemically in order to create different structures. Now, this is why we can have waxy starches, and this is why we can have starchy starches. These same sugars link together from a different chemical bond to form fiber. Fiber is not digested in the stomach and does not provide energy. So when we look at carbohydrates and when we look at fiber, we have to understand that fiber does not give us any energy, not the same degree that starches and sugar does. Alright, so some examples of carbohydrates would be obviously breads, pastas, rices, starches like potatoes, sweet potatoes, flour. These are all common sorts of carbohydrates. Now, it may be shocking to you, but we do need carbohydrates in our diet. The reason why is because this is our body's preferred fuel source, which is glucose. Without our body's preferred fuel source, we have to use non-optimal fuel sources like ketones, and if you want to learn more about that, look back to the ketogenic diet series that we did a few months back. Okay, so let's assume for a second you caught on to this low carb, carbs are evil fad diet craze that just is nonsensical, because people have been eating carbs since the beginning of time and nothing's happened. Why is it a problem now? It does not make sense. One of the biggest issues is when we remove carbohydrates out of our diet, we force our body to do things that it's not used to doing, or it's not optimal at doing. The first thing is, if you actually remove enough carbohydrates, you reach a state and point called ketosis, where your body actually starts using ketones as a fuel source aside from your carbohydrates. Ketones are made from fats, and obviously this is why people are so interested in the ketogenic diet, is because they're using fat as a fuel source, thinking they can burn through fat. But if we remove carbohydrates from our diet, there's actually a lot of health risks associated. So there's an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, there's an increased risk of headaches, weakness, nausea, dehydration, dizziness, and irritability. That's a big one, irritability. You also don't get a lot of fiber if you fully start absorbing carbohydrates. Now, you can get fiber from vegetables, but remember, vegetables have carbohydrates there too, in the form of starches and sugars. But if you start avoiding fibers and carbohydrates, then what typically happens is your gastrointestinal risk, cancer risk, or disease risk starts going up, because fiber helps protect against a lot of diseases at the digestive tract. So we have to keep that in mind. Another thing too is we lose a lot of micronutrients from our carbohydrate intake. So there's a lot of risk in reducing our carbohydrates. So, like I said earlier, if you're on a low enough carbohydrate intake diet, you will enter a state called ketosis. Unfortunately, the majority of keto diets out there do not actually enter a state of ketosis. So what it actually does do is it forces your body to do something complicated called gluconeogenesis. That's when your body actually starts breaking apart other body tissues like muscle mass to convert that into sugar so your body can continue to operate. So if you're not doing this properly, low carb diet properly, what you're actually doing is burning through your lean muscle mass. And what that does, it starts affecting your hormones like leptin and ghrelin, and it starts increasing your appetite. So what you end up doing on this diet is you get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, but your body's because your body's forcing you to eat properly. Now, onto the entree of this video. Do carbs make you fat? Now, let's be perfectly honest here, eating too much of anything will make you fat, in the sense where it will, any extra calories that you consume, your body will try to store. However, with carbohydrates in particular, if you eat excess carbohydrates, you go through a complicated process called de novo lipogenesis in order to store this as fat. So what is de novo lipogenesis? De novo lipogenesis is a complicated procedure where your body takes your excess glycogen or glucose and turns it into fat. Now, in order to understand how your body does this, your body will not turn excess carbohydrate into fat right away. Your body will first and foremost store all the carbohydrate it can in the form of glycogen. And typically a human body, an adult body, can store about 130 to 150 grams of carbohydrate. So you do store it first. Now, if once your carbohydrate stores, your glycogen stores are fully saturated in your muscles, then it starts turning the excess carbohydrate into de novo lipogenesis. Now, de novo lipogenesis is a very energy consuming process in itself, so it's not like each calorie of carbohydrate you're eating is being converted into a calorie of fat being stored in your fat stores in your body. Now, for the general population, this is not really a big concern, but there are certain disease states out there that make it a little bit more of a concern. States such as cancer, obesity, metabolic syndrome, liver cirrhosis, that's when you're experiencing some liver damage. Now, this could be because of a high-fat diet. It doesn't always have to be related to liver damage related to alcohol intake. So keep that in mind. There are states out there, medical conditions, that alter your body's ability to use de novo lipogenesis to store fat from carbohydrates. But what we can definitely conclude is that when diets are calorie matched, whether it's a high fat or low carbohydrate versus a low fat diet, the participants of these studies, they lose the same amount of weight no matter what. However, it should be important to be said that the study participants in the low carbohydrate group, they lose a lot more weight much more rapidly at 6 months. However, at the 1 year mark, all weight loss is equally the same when it's about calories. So again, it's not carbohydrates specifically that make you fat, it's calories or excess calories that make you fat. Okay, so why do we continue to think that carbohydrates make us fat? Aside from the many books out there by the many idiots that think they know something about nutrition without a nutrition degree, manipulating carbohydrate intake is the easiest way to get anyone to lose weight. Like I said before, each gram of glycogen in the body has 3 grams of water associated with it. So on a low carbohydrate diet, you lose a lot of weight really quickly, and that's a feel-good response that we get. The other reason why carbohydrates are so effective at weight loss is because what a lot of people actually don't understand is when they eat carbohydrates, they may be experiencing digestive issues in the form of digestive issues related to something called a FODMAP. Now, we may have talked about FODMAPs before. If not, we certainly will in the future, but FODMAPs are basically a fancy way of saying fermentable oligo, di, mono, and polylolsaccharides. So a fancy way of saying sugars that do not digest well and that ferment and create gas in your stomach. So when people go off of carbohydrates or stop taking carbohydrates, they say they feel better. Maybe it's because they weren't tolerating certain carbohydrates in particular to begin with. A lot of these might be sugar alcohols, excess fructose, or certain fibers that are causing some digestive issues at their stomach. The most common one being beans. So that might be why you're thinking that weight loss or you feel better is related to carbohydrates, but it actually is related to specific sugar interactions in your stomach. So in summary, do carbohydrates make you fat? Technically, yes, if you eat too much, but that's true to be said about anything. So no, they do not specifically make you fat. Is there a need to reduce carbohydrates? If you're eating them in excess, yes. Or if you're experiencing digestive issues like bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, or anything like that, it might be time to look at your carbohydrate choices that you're making. And the best way to do that is to work together with a dietitian, and if you're physically active, a sports dietitian. Other than that, final verdict, busted. Carbohydrates do not make you fat. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching again. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed making it. As always, like, subscribe, share down below. If you like this video, let people know, because let's be honest here, we want people to be eating healthy shit, but we want them to be doing it in an educated way. So let's educate more people out there. Until then, happy eating. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.